Hello, what's up guys? I'm Kyle from KGR, and this is the Figuarts Final Fantasy VII Cloud. This whole lineup of figures has me so mixed, because on paper, as a figure, it's fantastic. The whole lineup looks absolutely fantastic, because they're trying to recreate the arts of the original PS1 games, but there is an ulterior motive with it, where they're trying to match it with cryptocurrency, and I'm not sure how many of us really like that. I personally hate it. But a majority of people either don't know that or don't care about it. So the biggest question that people want to know when it comes to this figure is, does it blend in well with your Smash Brothers display? Is this the perfect Smash Brothers Cloud figure? And to answer your question, yes. This is the Cloud figure you want to get if you're trying to go for a Smash display. I can let you judge right here with these pictures where you can see it with Lucina. I have it paired with Link. I also have it paired with Mario. I have a lot more characters to pair it up with, but these are just a few pictures that I've taken. And yes, the scaling is absolutely perfect. It artistically blends in very well with Smash Brothers. It's a good figure. It's definitely worth grabbing. But I don't think it's worth grabbing at this price, because mostly where you go, this guy is going to be probably $130. And I'll get into why I don't think it's worth that price, but it is still a good figure. I think it is worth grabbing. First up, let's take a closer look at this figure, and as you can tell, it looks like he jumped straight out of the game. The face looks fantastic. I'm a huge fan of the shading, even though you could probably tell on mine is not perfect, especially for the price that you're paying. It should be a lot better than what it is. But what they're trying to go for, I love the low lights, I love the highlights, the shading. It's just so good looking. I was expecting to be mostly mixed on this figure, but I am very blown away with how this figure looks. When it comes to the articulation, I'm a little bit mixed on it, because I feel like this figure as a whole just covers the bare minimum on every level. The main things I'm very surprised with is the shading and how good the face looks. But at least on my figure in particular, you can see like spots on where the shading doesn't really look right. And I suggest, if you get this figure, I highly recommend giving it a hot water bath. For those who don't understand what that means, sometimes these figures come very, very tight, Marvel Legends being a good example for that. So instead of stressing the joints so much that they snap, if you put it under some type of hot thing, whether it be a heat gun or a hair dryer to do it with air, or if you put it into hot water, it's supposed to loosen up the joints because of the heat. So then it makes the figure a lot more pleasant to play with. Like for example, this figure has bendable toes, and I can get this one to budge, but this one does not want to move, and I am quite scared to, because this thing's $130. When it comes to the shoulders, they're mostly okay. However, this one is heavily compromised because it's on a ball peg. You can see that the ball peg itself actually goes into the arm, but you can tell that that peg itself rams into his shoulder. So unfortunately, your movement is very restricted because of that peg. There is still a decent amount of movement you can do with it, but with that peg being there, it heavily restricts that shoulder. But it is on a ball hinge, so you can move this shoulder to make it look good artistically. And I noticed the hips, whenever I want to do some super dynamic poses, sometimes, depending on the pose I want to do, the hips will just fall right off. Just like that. But these ball pegs are actually on hinges, so you do have a little bit of movement on what you want to do with it. It's just because of the design of Cloud, because his legs are just so poofy, there is a good chance that his legs just gonna pop off. So just be very careful with it, but thankfully it shouldn't break too easily on you. But I'm not gonna like fault that on the figure. That's just Cloud's design for the most part. And I remember when I first saw the pictures, I thought the knees looked very ugly, and for the most part, they kind of do. They are not very good looking knees. But when the legs are together like this, the legs look so good on how well they sculpt together. It's just unfortunate on how ugly this mechanism is. And the only real complaint I have for the articulation when it comes to movement besides that shoulder is I kind of wish he had butterfly joints. It'd be one thing if this figure came out like say 10 years ago and it was impressive at the time, but it's now 2024. This figure came out in 2023. Let's pretend it's 2023. A lot of figures are implementing butterfly joints. Even Figma is starting to get into that now. So when it comes to a character that's a sword wielder, you would think he'd be able to reach across his chest to grab the sword that he's holding, but no, he doesn't really have that. You have to like really rely on his elbows for that. As you can tell from the top of this, like it gives you like further reach like going forward, but it doesn't go across his chest like it's supposed to. So when it comes to articulation, this figure is fine. It's not perfect. I guess should be better, especially to today's standards, but it's fine. And also let's take a look at the accessories, because that is also kind of the bare minimum here. So we get Cloud, we get his Buster Sword, and we get an assortment of hands, which, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of these boxes, so you gotta take this whole thing off. And down here you have his display base, which is a much better display base compared to what they originally came with their earlier Figuarts figures. But then you gotta go under here and grab this to access the rest of the accessories. So we get a little tray of hands. So we have a set of fists, a set of gripping hands to hold the sword, and a set of open hands. Even though that is very minimal, a little bit of a hot take, I'm actually kind of a fan of the fact that it doesn't come with too much, because there is such a thing as too much. Too many accessories gets me overwhelmed, especially with Amazing Yamaguchi. No lie, I'm actually getting kind of burnt out by Amazing Yamaguchi because of the amount of different eyes that you get. And then we'll also get this little stem right here, so you can go onto Cloud's back, take this out. Getting it out sometimes is actually a little bit of a struggle, but it's not too difficult, but it's not as easy and seamless as like swapping out hands. So then you take one of the sides of the pegs, then you force that into his back, and then you just put this into one of the holes, and you should be solid. I know on the Figuarts Kai, I had one that actually broke on me like that, but this thing looks like a solid piece, so hopefully it shouldn't break as easily. But there he is, holding the sword, and he just looks so freaking good. I love this. Here's my thing. I feel like what he comes with is fine. I wish it would have had like a deluxe version where it would have came with maybe another weapon, maybe some materia, maybe some extra heads, because how easily you could take off his head. If it would have came with a bonus edition or a deluxe edition where it came with more stuff like that, then sure, $130 could be justifiable. Maybe. But the way it stands as it is with everything that we have right here, let's pretend the base isn't there, okay? Because the base honestly is kind of like fine. It's like the bare minimum. It does its job. It's just a clamp mechanism. Nothing too crazy. But this, I want to say, is probably worth no more than like $70 to $80. Because for some reason, Square likes to feel like they're the Louis Vuitton when it comes to franchises like Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts. No. No, it's not a fashion lineup. It is a franchise of a game that's it's pretty good. So $130 for this, no way. If you are patient, definitely wait on this. Because I've seen Figuarts figures, especially from Kingdom Hearts, where they will drop down in price, let's say maybe down to like $60 to $70 or so. If it goes to that price, it's absolutely worth picking up. And I have a feeling that because it's Final Fantasy VII, the most popular Final Fantasy franchise, as well as being Cloud, one of their most popular characters, they're probably printing a lot of these things, so they're probably going to want to eventually blow them out. So when it does drop down to that price, whether it be like Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, whatever, which by the way, if you want to like keep an eye out for that, like follow people like Wario64, Cheap Ass Gamer, or other people like that on Twitter, and or even on Discord, you will get notifications for those kind of things. That's actually how I'm able to get stuff like my PS5. That's how I got mine day one. Point is, follow those. I'm not affiliated with them. I just want to help out another collector. Point is, this figure is very great. Does it 100% capture Cloud from his PS1 look? Absolutely not. For example, the eyes aren't as perfect. Like they look different compared to the original concept art, but no lie, I actually kind of prefer this. I think it actually looks really nice. And then when it comes to the arm right here, when it comes to this little gear thing, that's not accurate to the game at all. It's supposed to be like wide, thin, and wide again, to the point where it's thinner than his arm, and I don't understand how it works, because in the game, like, you can see him actually take his thing off. I don't know how the anatomy works in Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy, because like there's some characters that are like super anorexic skinny. The point is, it's not 100% accurate, but it still looks really good. I love this so much. The only reason I want to be as picky as I am is because this thing is $130. And I've had a fair share of Cloud figures in my collection. I've had the Dissidia Figuarts Kai. In fact, I actually have another figure. Give me a sec. This is the Final Fantasy VII Remake Figuarts Kai, and this is the Figuarts original Final Fantasy. This is insane. What blows my mind is like, yeah, they do look vastly different because this is based off the original game, this is based off Remake, okay? But that's not what blows my mind. What blows my mind is the fact that there is only a $25 difference between these two figures. That raises a concern. This thing is not even half the size of this character, and this figure is a lot more robust when it comes to how the articulation works and everything, and the amount of detailing they put into this figure. How are you going to tell me there's a $25 difference? No way. No way. Now keep in mind, I still do love both these figures. Like, I love them both for so many different reasons. I kind of wish they would do a remake Cloud in the Figuarts line instead of this giant Figuarts Kai, but God, look at him, he looks so good. I think throughout my life, I've had not counting the amiibos, I want to say like 9 Cloud figures, some of them being repeats. Point is, I've had a lot of Cloud figures in my day, but this Figuarts Cloud is definitely in the top 3. Because Remake Cloud is also a goodie, and also Advent Children Figuarts Kai. That thing is beautiful. At least the first run of it. The later runs not as much, but the first run's so good. And also, it's fun when you pair this with the little polygonal blind bag figure with it, because it's kind of like this is the overworld version and this is the in-battle version. In fact, that's why I did this little photo right here. I think it looks so good. But before I head off, let me show you how much of a pain it can be to make him hold his sword, okay? So getting the hands on and all that stuff and getting this little stem out, again, not much of an issue really. It's not that bad. But it's getting his shoulders and bending his wrists and his elbows all the way you need them to make him hold the sword the way you need to, sometimes can be a little bit infuriating, especially when he grips it and then like the sword is at not a good angle. So you have to like really manipulate it and like be scared that you're gonna break the figure. So then like we just bend all this stuff. Cause look at that. Tell me that doesn't look cool. So like on paper, you can get a lot of the poses done with him. So him not having the butterfly joints isn't the worst thing in the world, but man, it would make your job a whole lot easier if it did. But out of the many years I've had Cloud figures, one problem that I always had is still prominent with this figure. And that is having him hold it on one hand and have it swing in a dynamic motion. Now there are so many things that have to go into play when it comes to posing this figure, because as you can tell, the sword is heavy. It's not the figure's fault. It's just how every Cloud figure works, okay? It's like having a Knuckles figure from Sonic and complaining about how he can't really move his arms all that much. That's just the design flaw of the character, not the action figure. But if you are patient and you know how to pose the figure well, you can get him so he does hold the sword the way you need him to. It's just a weird science of like pressing it in tight enough from the hand to all the way like covering the little peg to the base of the hinge, to positioning the hinge right enough so like it doesn't move. Like posing this figure is kind of like a science. It's very scary and very difficult. But as you can tell, as you're manipulating it, sometimes it'll just fall over like that. So when it comes to doing like stop motions and stuff like that, this figure is going to be very difficult to play with. So if you plan on doing a Smash Brothers stop motion, I'm actually very curious to see how somebody will do with this figure. If you can pull it off, I'm impressed. Good job. But like I said, if you're patient and you kind of have an idea what you're doing, you can pose him the way you want to. But don't be surprised if you put him in a dynamic pose on your shelf when you're posing him for your Smash display, just to see his sword like either fall off his hand or not be at the right angle you want it to be. Thankfully, there are solutions to that. I've heard about like if you get like some type of like polish and like put that on the joint itself, especially the peg, since it'll be a much tighter fit as well. It's supposed to add essentially another layer of plastic, so add a lot more tension, so it can hold the poses that you want to do with the sword really well. I haven't done this myself though, so I couldn't like tell you how it is. But there's also a super glue trick, which I'm not a huge fan of, because if you screw that up, then undoing super glue is very difficult. But anyway, if you plan on getting a Cloud figure for your Smash Bros. Display, this is it. And I don't think it's going to get much better than this, especially in this scale. I've been waiting for a Cloud figure to be around this size for a very long time, and now that I finally have it, it is definitely one of my favorite figures that has come out last year. Despite all the flaws that it has, this is still a phenomenal figure. But if you have the money and you don't mind spending the $130 or so, then go for it. But if you're more on a budget, then wait. Because I can guarantee you that this figure is going to drop down in price. But when it drops down in price, you better grab it because it's going to sell out. And I don't know if Square is going to be generous enough to relaunch this figure, because again, since they're trying to pair this with cryptocurrency, so the whole cryptocurrency thing, if you don't know what's going on, so you buy the figure and it comes with a digital certificate of authenticity, which they never came with a paper one, so why do you need a digital one? And there's also a digital deluxe version where it comes with a crypto version of the figure that you can put in your crypto wallet. This is all because of the craze of cryptocurrency, and now that the figures have released, crypto itself is dying, so I don't know how much more they're going to keep going when it comes to the whole crypto side of this. And part of me wants to say that that's why these figures are as expensive as they are. But a lot of Bring Arts figures are expensive nonetheless, without even including crypto. So, like, I don't think this added that much money to it. And typically with Square Enix figures, this is one of those things where I recommend, like, waiting for reviews for. But now that I have it, yes, he's absolutely, I don't want to say perfect, because he has flaws, but man, he's so good looking. He's so worth picking up. But again, wait for a price drop. If he's under $100, then get him. But it's hard to justify at $130. But if you're as crazy and as impatient as I am, then yes, there will be links in the description to get this guy. I got this guy personally from Nin Game, and there are some other Japanese retailers that should have it, whether it be like Hobbylink Japan or Ami maybe. But if you don't feel like importing from Japan and you want to just buy it outright from an American distributor, I will be having links to either Amazon, if there's a link for that. There's Entertainment Earth, so that'll help me out if you get that. Big Bad Toy Store. There's plenty of places that sell this thing. But I'm going to wrap up this video. So if you're new and you like what you saw, you know what to do. Links will be in the description on where you can check this guy out, as well as my social media, especially my Instagram. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys to death, and I'll see you on the next one. So peace.